Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about a lot of things, including Mr. Nelson Mandela. We move and we change the scene to Bangladesh, Liberation War, a very important leader who took steps to stabilize and form a government, probably the first Bengali government. Tajuddin's place, I read it from your blog, in Bangladesh's political narrative was assured when he formed the very first Bengali government in history in 1971. But again, if Tajuddin's moment of glory came through his leadership of the war of liberation, his despair manifested itself in his efforts to beat back those who undermined him. A nightmare soon killed the dream. He made a difference in 1971 and he was cut down in 1975, only 4 years. Similarly is the case with Bangabandhu.
Of course, yes.
Not many people know much about Tajuddin. You have written a book. That is a great job. Possibly the only book on him, is it?
No, there are others in
English.
In Bengali. In English, yes. So far, that's the one, as far as I recall.
How close were you to him when you decided to?
No, I didn't meet him as such because I was a student, and when he was killed in jail along with three other national leaders, I had just taken admission at the university. In fact, I took admission at the university a month after Bangabandhu and most of his family members were assassinated. So that was a very tragic moment for all of us. So, but then I took great interest in Tajuddin Ahmed, especially during the war. So on Shadin Bangla Betar and news reports that were available to us in however minute form in occupied Bangladesh and in Pakistan, what used to be West Pakistan at that time. So, and later on, of course, I read about him, accounts of his administration in Mujibnagar by people who were close to him, Maidul Islam, for instance. So, and of course, the fact now is that Tajuddin Ahmed, and yes, I also recall the time when an eminent economist in Bangladesh who was associated with the drafting of the 6 points, he first told me, we were in Kathmandu at a media conference way back in 1994. Yes, exactly. So we were taking a walk, and I asked him about the 6 points. Sir, could you give me a background of how the 6 points were drafted? And then Bangabandhu declared, announced the 6 points in Lahore. Then he says, we were given the task by Bangabandhu. He was not yet Bangabandhu. He was still Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Back in 1965, that was before the 1965 war, India-Pakistan war. And he said, he asked us to draft a plan. He gave us the main idea, the points that these should be included. And we made the draft 6 points. And we went to give them to him. With him, all these other senior Awami League leaders were there. But then we were explaining things only to Bangabandhu. And then we asked him, sir, are you satisfied? And he said, yes, I am satisfied. But then he pointed to the other leaders, if any one of you has any question to ask. And the professor, he said, we felt it would be very easy because Bangabandhu had said it, he had agreed. And so and there would be no difficult questions. But then Mr. Tajuddin Ahmed, he said, I have a few questions to ask. But then those questions were not few, there were many. And by the time we finished answering those questions, we were literally sweating because he had gone to all these nitty-gritties. So that's one example of Tajuddin's intellectual abilities. The other one is, which I have pointed out in my earlier write-ups, is in early 1966, after it was within a month of the 6 points being announced in Lahore in February 1966, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he was still Pakistan's foreign minister. He would leave in July of that year. When Bangabandhu's 6 points were announced in Lahore, he challenged Bangabandhu to a public debate in Dhaka, in Paltan Maidan, not even in West Pakistan, in East Pakistan, in Dhaka.
But he chickened out.
Yes. And then Bangabandhu did not deign to reply. Tajuddin Ahmed answered. He said, I'm ready to debate Bhutto on these 6 points. And Bhutto never turned up. And later on in March 1971, just before the crisis, when the crisis actually had begun on the 1st of March, when President Yahya Khan was planning to go to Dhaka, and he did go to Dhaka on the 15th of March 1971, Bhutto advised General Yahya Khan, so when you go to Dhaka, you talk to Sheikh Mujib, you talk to the other leaders, but be careful of Tajuddin. He's the most dangerous man in the Awami League. So apparently, by the dangerous man, he remembered Tajuddin's challenge to him. So these were, this is one aspect of Tajuddin's political character. Then the way he conducted the liberation war, because he had always been inspired by Bangabandhu, enlightened by Bangabandhu's leadership, and he knew Bangabandhu was away in prison, but something had to be done for the country. He went to India like all the other politicians, like all the other, so many other millions of Bengalis there. But then at the same time, he also had this idea in him that he needed to form, that a government needed to be formed for the liberation of the country. He met Mrs. Indira Gandhi along with Barrister Amirul Islam, Professor Rahman Subhan, and some others were also there. So he gave a concrete shape to the government. Of course, he ran into opposition from many elements within the Awami League. But then there was also no confidence motion brought against him. He survived, and he was completely unfazed about it. And he knew that he was on the right path, a very principled man, so he knew he was on the right path. And then he organized the liberation war, say with all these military commanders, the division of the country into 11 sectors. Then the fact of the cabinet, the question of foreign policy, how to deal with the Soviets at that time, the Indians, and the West. All these were his brainchild, and that was remarkable because
where had he had his political training?
Well, he had always been a political figure, because if you go back to his diaries beginning in 1948. He was a student of Dhaka University, but then he had these very small entries in diaries, and it showed that he was very concerned about what was going on within months of the establishment of Pakistan. On the one hand, there was Bangabandhu. Bangabandhu was 5 years older than him. Bangabandhu had already gone to jail, was already in jail by March 1948. Tajuddin was still a student, but then he was a socialist. He remained a committed socialist till the end, but then it was always people's welfare. It was always developments in Pakistan, the way he saw things going wrong in Pakistan, that motivated him. And he realized at that point, like his leader Bangabandhu, that things needed to change. So I think one of the biggest happenings, one of the greatest things that could happen to the Bengali nation was the coming together of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Tajuddin Ahmad. They were a great team. And I like to tell people that they were a team like Gandhi and Nehru in India, Mao and Zhou Enlai in China, and we have in Bangladesh, we have Bangabandhu and Tajuddin. But it's unfortunate that after the war,
the liberation war.
After the liberation war, differences developed between the two. But one good thing, to the credit of Tajuddin, Bangabandhu has been, after his death, after his assassination, Bangabandhu was betrayed by a whole lot of people. Nowadays, you'll hear so many people trying to, spilling crocodile tears over Bangabandhu's assassination. But then there are also people who denigrated him after his death. I still remember some leading politicians of the country, opposition politicians, they observed this notorious Najat Dibosh after his death. Tajuddin, to the end, he remained loyal. And it is said, and this I was told this by Zohra Tajuddin when I met her, at the end of July 1975, he received a phone call pretty late at night. That was around 11:30. And Dhaka at that time, if you recall, was not as developed today. And today, these days, Dhaka is alive the entire night.
He does not sleep.
But then Tajuddin received a call from somebody who was close to him and who was also close to Bangabandhu. And that gentleman, whoever he was, he called Tajuddin and he said, I've just received news that plans have already been made to murder Bangabandhu. So please go and tell him to be very careful. And Tajuddin walked out of the house without telling his wife. And the wife, of course, asked him, where are you going? He said, I'm going to Mujib Bhai's house. He called him Mujib Bhai. And he walked half the way, because at that time it was pretty late at night, almost 11:45. And he walked half the way. Finally, he found one rickshaw, and then he turned up at Road 32 around midnight. And he went up. He walked. He was not please remember that he was not a minister at that time. Neither was he part of the new political formation called Baksal. But he went up, and Bangabandhu was surprised to see him so late at night, asked him what he was doing there. And he gave him the story that this is the phone call I received, and I think people are there to bump you off, so you should be very careful. And Bangabandhu, in his characteristic way, he laughed again. He said, "No Bengali will kill me. Don't be worried. You go home." And Tajuddin came home and told his wife. His wife asked him what happened. He said, "No, Mujib Bhai is not very serious. He does not take me seriously. He's very confident that nobody will kill him." But then you see, only a fortnight later, the tragedy happened. So that was one tragedy. The next tragedy in our political history is, of course, the murder of all these 4 leaders in jail. And I believe it has been reported by one of those policemen who were there on the night of the 3rd November, when all these 4 leaders were brought into one room before they were killed. The 3 other leaders, they apparently thought that they were going to be released because they had got wind of the change that was taking place under General Khalid Musharraf, and they were pretty excited about it. But only Tajuddin, he apparently told them that nobody is going to take us out. We'll be killed tonight. And that is what exactly happened. And he was all 3 of them, the other 3, they were killed with those that when the soldiers started firing them, they died instantly. Tajuddin didn't die instantly. He was still groaning when he fell. And then one policeman, he ran up to those murderers who were going out of Dhaka Central Jail and told them that one of them is still alive. And they came back and they bayoneted him to death. So that is a shame which we have never been able to live down. So this was Tajuddin. And he, as I said earlier, to the end of his life, he remained loyal to Bangladesh, to the concept of Bangladesh, to Bangabandhu, to the idea of social. And he believed in socialistic economy. He never believed that he never agreed that we should be part of the IMF or the World Bank, because these 2 Bretton Woods organizations would be tentacles around us. And to this day, now we realize how much of foresight he had in his vision of a socialistic, secular Bangladesh.
Well, what was the basis of the differences between the 2 leaders?
I think it had to do more with foreign policy, because where Bangabandhu was concerned, Bangabandhu's idea was that in foreign policy, his idea still holds, friendship for all and malice for none. Bangabandhu believed that people, countries which had not supported us in 1971, still we need to maintain good relations with them. We must try to develop good relations with them. But Tajuddin here, he was pretty obstinate in his opinion here, because his idea was that India had supported us, we should be very friendly with India, fine. The Soviet Union was there with us, we should be there. But then he didn't trust the United States, and he didn't trust China, of course. But Bangabandhu's vision was different. He kept the doors open. If you recall, during his lifetime as Prime Minister of Bangladesh, as President of Bangladesh, Bangabandhu never for a single moment criticized China, because he knew one day Bangladesh would need China's help and the Chinese would come. And he did condemn the Nixon administration, but then he never condemned the American people. He recognized their support. With Saudi Arabia also, and he made the same point.
We need another break.
Yes, yes.
It's not because of Saudi Arabia. Thank you for being with us. We're enjoying the conversation with Syed Badrul Ahsan. We'll be back soon after this short break. Thank you.